Hi, everyone. It's Hallie. We're going to go ahead and get started. Thank you for being here. We greatly appreciate your time. And we're going to be talking today about leveraging LinkedIn for lots of different purposes. This webinar is being recorded, and you will receive a copy of the recording automatically. So you should receive it right after the webinar today. Anything else that I want to say admin wise? Yes, I'm going to stay off of video just for today because my internet is a little bit wonky and I want to make sure that you guys can see the slides and hear me okay versus worrying about that piece of it. So really quickly, I'm Hallie Crawford. Most of you probably know that. I'm a certified career coach, speaker, and author. I've been coaching and training for well over 22 years now, since 2002. Have an undergraduate degree from Vanderbilt University and a graduate degree from the University of Illinois. And the advice that we're going to give you all today is the advice that we give to all of our clients. So we have coaches all over the country. I am based in Atlanta, Georgia. And we love helping people find jobs they love. And we know that there's a lot of people out there that have been laid off or are concerned about that. And LinkedIn is one of the main things that you want to use and leverage for your job search. So there's lots of different reasons why LinkedIn is a critical tool, not just for job searching, but also for your professional development, positioning yourself as an expert in your industry, et cetera, et cetera. And the main thing we want to look at this slide here is mostly that employers and recruiters use LinkedIn enormously to go try to find qualified candidates for their job openings. So it's a great place to start to leverage that hidden job market, if you will. And the reasons why we want you to consider using LinkedIn is not just to, okay, I want to find a new job. We get that. Like, you need to sell yourself to get that new position. And we totally understand that. But we also want you to think about it in these other ways too, because it will help you improve and leverage your profile from a big picture perspective. It's also about branding yourself right out of the box, like letting people know, like, this is who I am. This is what I bring to the table before they even start to read through your profile. It helps you get positioned as an expert. You can learn from other people and exchange ideas and stay in the know with what other people are doing with their job search and industry trends so that you know what you need to be putting in your profile and in your resume to get that next job. And it obviously helps you strengthen and expand your network. And if you are in a customer type of customer facing role, it will help you strengthen those relationships with your clients as well. So here's what we're going to talk about today: your profile, making connections, and getting engaged on LinkedIn, and sharing and exchanging valuable information, learning from others, as well as sharing information. We're going to talk about these things on this next slide a little bit more in depth about your picture, branding, search engine optimizing, et cetera, and how to deal with making new connections, invitations, et cetera, and then also sharing that information like we just talked about too. So number one, when we focus on working with our clients on LinkedIn, there are certain things that we find that people tend to either skip over or miss or forget. And those are the things we want to focus on a little bit more today, because they're usually kind of the big rocks, if you will. So first of all, you do need to have a photo on your profile. That's no longer optional. If you're worried about ageism, dress in a youthful manner. Do something maybe about coloring your hair, for example, if needed. We had a client say that, he grew a beard during COVID and post-COVID, kept it for a while, but it was gray. And so he shaved it off and that helped him. The other thing that we want you to consider over time, you don't have to do this tomorrow, but in addition to having a photo, is consider creating a quick introductory video of yourself. And you can put a link to it in your About section. It could be or include your elevator speech, a brief career history, and the answer that you would answer if you were in an interview if they say, tell us about yourself, okay? So this is basically what you could include in a short little video snippet. More and more people are visual, we're using technology more and more, so we want to encourage you, in addition to your photo, to consider adding a video. The second thing that we want to take a look at as part of these things, the photo and video requirements, if you will. These are some listed up here with your headshot. Make sure it's close up, you're facing forward, and that you look professional, but you're also like smiling and look warm and personable, okay? The second thing on this slide is we want you to include and create a branded image for your banner. It could be your company logo. It could be a nature scene or city skyline of where you live, or something else relevant to your industry. But we want you to create something that helps brand you right out of the box so that when someone lands on your profile, boom, they know this is exactly who this person is. This is the type of job that they're targeting and the value that they can provide to my organization. Okay. And here's an example on this next slide of a really good headshot, as well as a branded banner behind this woman's head. Now, she could go with something that's a little bit more fun because her industry is a little bit more informal. She's in veterinary pharmaceutical sales. Okay, so manages the Southeast region, high up in her organization, and she can put like kind of a fun dog's nose in the background, right? If your industry is a little bit more formal, you'd want to choose something a little bit more traditional or formal. But what we're looking for here is for you to get something where you put like a tagline here, leading success-driven veterinary teams, et cetera, et cetera. And you can put your job title here, but we kind of like, I mean, your job title is already over here. We kind of like when people have, some other sort of tagline or, almost like a different type of job title that helps brand you. So when I go to this person's profile, I know exactly what she does, what her expertise is. It gives me a flavor for who she is right out of the box. And that's what we're looking for. If you do not have a branded banner, we're happy to help you with this, as well as search engine optimization of your profile, which is a really important piece to leveraging LinkedIn these days. You need to have the right keywords in certain sections and areas of your profile. Another thing that we find with our clients that they sometimes forget, which totally understand, is making sure that all of your contact information is there. We're going to start from the left here on the slide. All of your contact information is there, your phone number, your email address, and visible so that it's easy for people to contact you. We want you to customize your URL to shorten it a little bit and make it look a little bit more professional, because we want you to use and place your LinkedIn live link into your email signature line so that, again, people can contact you easily, and a text-only version of it into your resume and cover letter header. So it's nice when it looks a little bit less gobbledygook and it's a little bit shorter and sweeter with your name in it. With your about section, the other thing we find kind of number one, or another mistake that our clients will make, is that they will either have too short of an about section or it's just not compelling enough. And one of the things we want you to consider when you're creating your about section is we want you to not only include like maybe one or two of your accomplishments or a major accomplishment, your strengths and your skills, but we want you to talk a little bit about your soft skills too. Like, are you a mentor leader? Are you great at, strategic planning? Those types of things, soft skills that employers can't necessarily teach, but that are going to push you over the edge in terms of, above other candidates, because when employers and recruiters are interviewed about the top qualifications they're looking for in candidates, they always mention soft skills first. It's really interesting. So this is our ideal career model that we use with our clients to help them determine their career direction, to identify if they are in the right career fit, and help them with their job search to know, okay, what are the elements of my brand and long-term strategic career planning. And with your soft skills, we, yes, want you to include your strengths, education, and experience, but we want you to include those soft skills, elements of your personality type that help you, for example, connect with customers really easily, that you listen really well and can understand what their problems are very quickly. Whatever it is, include those too. Because LinkedIn is supposed to be more personal than your resume is. And this is part of where, if we go to the next slide, with your about section, it's okay to have a more third person narrative in your about section for the most part, but your writing choice should mirror your field. So for example, if you are in a more informal or human services type of profession like we are, we recommend much more of a narrative summary. Almost the whole thing would be acceptable for that. But if you're in a more formal or analytical or numbers-based field, something that's a little bit more traditional, it's okay to have a third person narrative first, but add a narrative like first person, one sentence or two at the end of it. Because again, with LinkedIn, you're speaking to the reader a little bit more and you want them to connect with you. It's supposed to be a little bit more informal, different from your resume. Within your experience section, two of the things we would recommend considering doing is adding a couple of testimonials or one excerpt of a testimonial in each of your experience sections, and also any artifacts that you might have, PowerPoint presentations, graphs, something that you presented to a client, as long as it's not something confidential and that you're not supposed to share publicly. But that can help round out your candidacy and show people, oh, this is what it would be like if I hired this person. It's like showing them your work product right up front. Finally, with your profile, as you're finalizing it, and make sure that obviously you review it, have someone review it with you and kind of proofread and everything. It's easy to miss like grammatical mistakes and stuff like that when you've been looking at it for so long. You want to make sure that you use the right keywords and search engine optimize certain sections of your profile. We highly recommend getting those recommendations. Start with 3 at the beginning and work towards 5 over time. You can use those as content in different ways to get in front of hiring managers. And finally, this last bullet point here on the left-hand side of this slide, go through your settings, because if you are on LinkedIn more regularly, frequently, you'll notice there you're changing things all the time. Every time I log in, I'm like, oh, this is something new or something different. And your settings may be a little bit out of date. And you want to make sure that you check the box that says that I'm open to being contacted by employers and recruiters. And there are other things that you can do with that we work with our clients on. And make sure that everything on there on your LinkedIn profile that you want to be public and viewable is public and viewable. Let's talk next about making connections. Your goal in expanding your network is 500 plus. So you want to work in that direction. Start with people that you know. Go through your phone. There's always going to be 1 or 2 people that you forgot about that you could connect with. Look at and connect with family, friends, coworkers in your past and present jobs. We highly recommend joining your LinkedIn Alumni Association group. Most universities have them, and that's a great way to add to your list of connections. And you could also, over time, start to connect with industry leaders because, hey, you want to follow them, see what they're posting in their feed to, again, help you stay on top of trends and what's going on so that you're in the know, you know what keywords to put in your profile, et cetera, and you know what certain organizations might be looking for. One of the questions that we get very often related to making connections is, how do I get in front of hiring managers? And there's 3 things that we'll want to suggest as a starting point. And we've got a really good LinkedIn guide that explains to you how to use ChatGPT and AI to leverage LinkedIn, as well as tips and tricks to find people who are actually hiring, and it may not be as public as it could be, and also identify and find hiring managers. We would definitely on LinkedIn set up your job alerts there because we feel like LinkedIn's job board is the first place to start for most people. It does depend on your industry and what level you are. It's a good idea to follow companies and organizations that you're interested on LinkedIn because, again, you can get to know them and they may post something about what they're looking for or even if they're hiring. And in some cases, you can identify the recruiter or hiring manager from a job alert to express your interest in that particular job. Our guide can help you understand what you need to say to that person, how to find the hiring managers, and kind of tips and tricks about how to kind of get their attention. So feel free to email us about that, admin@createyourcareerpath.com. Related to making connections, there are a couple of things that we find our clients don't always do as well as we would like them, and we wanted to bring that up today too. So one thing is, if you want a connection or an introduction to a second or third connection in your LinkedIn network, or even outside of it, go through that first connection first. And when you do that, ask them not just to reach out to Joe and say, hey, Joe, would you be willing to talk to my friend Sarah? But ask Joe if he would message both you and Sarah on the same message and introduce you guys that way. That way, he knows why he's being contacted, what your background is, etc. And then you have you have Joe's contact information and can follow up, and it's less awkward to do so because you both were on that message. So whether it's through LinkedIn, because you can include multiple people on a message through LinkedIn messaging, or whether it's email, make sure that you don't fall into the trap of, oh, send me your resume and I'll pass it along. That's way passive. You never know if they're going to do it. Ask them to make an introduction in some way, shape, or form to the two of you. And when you are reaching out to send a connection request, whether it's your alumni association or someone else, especially if that is like just a warm lead or somebody cold, don't send the default message. These are some things that you can say to people who are cold or people that you just met, and just let them know, I'd like to stay in touch on LinkedIn. If you are wanting to get time with them over the phone or in person, to ask them a few questions, to pick their brain about your search and how to put your best foot forward in your search, you could send them something else in addition to this and say, would you be open to a 5 or 10 minute conversation? I'd love to pick your brain about what it's like to work where you are, or the keywords that your organization might be looking for, kind of what are the buzzwords within their culture, and et cetera, these days. So make sure that your connection requests are really active and there's like some sort of call to action in them if that's part of what you want from that connection. With your LinkedIn notifications and just networking in general, make networking a part of your weekly schedule. If you're in job search mode, it should be in a part of your daily schedule. It's a really good idea to use LinkedIn notifications and use your feed for professional achievements. You could ask people a question or for advice. You could share an image that's funny, or an inspirational quote. Make sure that you're checking and responding to your messages right on time and checking them daily. Make a goal or set a goal for yourself to create X number of new connections every week. It may be like 10 new connections and maybe 1 or 2 informational interviews that you want to have with people. When you have a specific goal like that, you're going to feel better about your search because it's like, okay, I've checked that box, and it's not this nebulous, well, let me just try to get as many as I can. Set a goal and have a number for yourself. Sorry about that. Join your LinkedIn Alumni Association group, because that's where not only could you make new connections with people, and those are possibly warm leads, but also that's a place where you could ask questions, and get advice from people, and also pay attention to who are those people in the group that tend to be a little bit more active, because those are the people that might be a little bit more willing to give you some time. They're interested in and enjoy networking. And it's a good idea, in addition to asking for recommendations from other people, to give recommendations to people as well. It shows that, it's a two-way street for you and you give back as well. Let's talk about our third agenda item, and that's sharing information with your network. We would recommend that you do a better job over time. It's not every single day by any means, but starting to kind of put things in your in your activity feed, post articles, share insights about something, creative ideas, problem-solving advice, articles that you like, and put a couple of notes about why you like it and what you think. Because these types of things, you come across people's desks more. It helps you stand out, and it can help you build credibility over time and build your brand as well. We are in no way, shape, or form expecting you to post every day. We don't want people to blow up the feed, so to speak, because then people will start to kind of ignore you, right? But we would suggest like once a week that you post something, so that, again, you're coming across people's desks and staying in front of them. As part of sharing information with your network, with LinkedIn groups, we would start with your alumni network. And then as a second possible group, though, we would look at industry-specific groups as well, because we have had recruiters and employers tell us that when they're looking for a candidate, they'll go to one of their industry association or industry specific groups first, because that's a narrower pool of people. And it's people, if they've joined or participated in that group, they care about their professional development. So this is where those LinkedIn groups can actually be pretty helpful, in addition to asking questions and making those connections too. Before we start to close out for today, before we go, I just wanted to mention that for anyone, for you or anyone you know, we love referrals. We're happy to do a free career strategy session to follow up on advice for what we're talking about today related to LinkedIn, or if you feel like you need any other assistance with your job search or career direction. The strategy session is to learn a little bit more about our coaching services, and we'll talk with you about what your needs are, as well as how we might be able to help you and if we are the right fit for you. So feel free, in addition to, it's the same email address. If you're interested in the LinkedIn guide, you can email us at admin@createyourcareerpath.com for either one of those items. Now, if you would do one thing for me for the moment before we go, I'd love it if everyone would write down one action item or step that they will take in the next week. Because here's the deal. LinkedIn, I realize, can be pretty overwhelming. There's a lot of new boxes and fields in there that they've added. Do not feel like you have to fill every or have something in every single box. You may not have articles that you've published. You may not have volunteer work, for example. So when we talk about a 100 complete profile, what we're talking about with our clients is that every section that can be filled in is filled in as appropriate for them and what they're looking for. Okay. And we also know that just updating a LinkedIn profile can feel incredibly overwhelming, which is why we help people with this all the time. We can either write it for you and hand it over to you, or we have coaches that will do a review, which is much lower cost, and talk through like the changes that they want you to make and why. You make those changes, they'll review it one more time, finalize it, boom, you're done. So take this step by step and keep in mind that LinkedIn is kind of an organic, living, breathing document, if you will. It's not one and done. Don't put like on yourself that it has to be perfection. So if we had to choose two things that we would recommend out of all of the action steps we talked about today, it would be to join your alumni LinkedIn group, because again, those are warm leads, good people to start to network with, get your name out there, et cetera. And then search engine optimize your profile. Those are our two most important things that we would say, because that's how people will be able to start to find you, get interviews, et cetera. We were talking with a client this morning, and she just got reached out to by someone on LinkedIn. It's the first interview she's had in about a month, and she's thrilled. Thank you for your time today, everybody. We really appreciate it. As a quick reminder for anyone who joined us a little bit later on, you will receive a copy of the recording from today automatically. We hope this was helpful for you. And if you have any additional questions that you'd like to talk with us about and learn a little bit more about our coaching services, you can just email us at admin@createyourcareerpath.com. Thanks so much, everybody, and have a great day.